All right. So you did highlight the document that we did pass to everyone. Thank you, Loretta, when they came in. Can you talk about the key differences between an AOBRD and an ELD?
Yes, when we talk about the AOBRD, we're referring to the 395.15 compliant device. That's the rule that's been around since 1988. That's what we have seen mostly, of course, in the operations and industry today. The ELD is what will be, in compliance December the 18th, 2017. Now, the AOBRD and the ELD are both required to be integrally synchronized. That means that the device has got to receive engine data. Now, with the key difference is the AOBRD has very limited technical specifications, because back in 1988, we had no idea, to the extent that technology would be today. So what happened was we had so many different providers that came out that took that limited technical specification and started, defining that themselves. So to put it, appropriately, it was kind of a roadside nightmare, because depending on the provider, the officer would have to know certain areas to go to retrieve the data that they needed in order to, enforce hours of service compliance. So what happened with the ELD rule is we understood that we needed one technical specification. So that's what the ELD rule is. The whole thing behind that is that uniform file output, that uniform system output. So it doesn't matter what provider you go to, you're going to have that consistent file hours of service output. We don't have to teach, functionality now to be able to retrieve the data from all of these different providers. There's the one standard. So that is pretty much the main differences. The ELD is subject to that limited, that specific technical requirement in Appendix A to Subpart B, whereas the 395.15 compliant is subject to that limited technical specification.
One thing just to add into that, for ELDs, they're all going to have to be registered with FMCSA's website. We don't perform a certification of the devices. The vendors themselves are certifying the devices, but unless they're registered on that site, they can't be an ALD. It's impossible for them to transfer data in a compliant way without being registered on that website. So that site is, I think that's one of the things that's in that document that got passed out by Loretta. Making sure that the device you're buying is registered on that site is an important thing, because if it's not there, it will never be able to transfer data until it's there.
And one other element of that same document is that it also talked about IRP and IFTA requirements for ELDs. Is FMCSA or the enforcement community aware of IRP and IFTA making sort of separate requirements? Did they coordinate with you? Who's going to enforce this?
Well, one thing to kind of establish a difference is IRP may be calling it an IRP compliant ELD, but we have no technical specifications within the ELD rule that requires IRP information. So pretty much when they talk about a IRP compliant ELD, that means different data elements that possibly that support system that goes to that ELD may be capturing this data, for IFTA reporting. So, the ELD, it's only an ELD to FMCSA if it meets that specific technical standard, but there's no prohibition that, in additional information can be obtained and retained by a back office system.
So you still have to reach the minimum,
support
but you
their
can go
information.
beyond.
Right.